Ever since I was a little kid, Pokemon has always been a very important part of my life. And that is why I decided to do this particular run through of using only a Paris to beat Pokemon FireRed. Now, the first Pokemon game I ever had was Pokemon Yellow. I am from the 90s, and it was actually because of Pokemon that I made my very first lifelong friend. I have a friend named Caitlin who, whenever I was in kindergarten, she saw me playing Pokemon one day at break, and she decided to sit down and talk to me and help me. I was very terrible at video games when I was a kid. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know how to save the game when I first started playing, so I would just always constantly restart the game every time I picked it up to play it, but I still loved Pokemon. But anyway, I remember very vividly that one day we were going through Mount Moon, and we caught a Paris, and she said, "Oh, hey," I can't remember the exact reason, but she said we should nickname this Paris Ace. So, I had that Paris on my Pokemon Red team all the way until the Elite Four. I don't think I ever beat the Elite Four, but I had it. So that is my inspiration for having Paris as my only Pokemon in this run-through, just to see if we can do it. So, I decided to put Paris in this particular slot where Charmander would be, just so my rival would have Squirtle, so that I would hopefully have the best chance of being able to beat my rival, especially at the main end, when he's going to have a Blastoise, and I will hopefully have Paris still that just has Giga Drain. But getting into this, I honestly expect this first battle here to go very poorly. Paris is obviously a notoriously bad Pokemon, but I did not account for something in planning this. I did plan out a couple of moves I wanted to make sure my Paris would have by the time we get to the end game. But as we will see right here, I forgot about Paris' ability, which is Spore Effect, or Effect Spore, which gives the opponent a 10% chance of getting either poisoned, paralyzed, or falling asleep. And I get the best possible outcome here, which is getting the Squirtle poisoned, and this gives me great hope for this run-through and also a potential strategy to get through this game, because obviously I'm going to have to use some very not savory tactics when it comes to trying to beat this playthrough with only Paris. But we managed to beat our rival. From there, I head up and I train up a bit, get into the Pokemon Mart, so we can take the parcel all the way back to Oak. I do want to mention that in this playthrough, I am going to have Master Balls and Rare Candies. That's just to help out if I want to avoid spending too much time grinding. And also, I need to capture a certain number of Pokemon for a TM that I hope to get later. Anyway, Professor Oak gives us our Pokedex, and we are able to move on. I decide to level Paris up a little bit, and we head to battle our rival YouTube in our second match. I'm a little bit scared of this one too, because he's going to have a Pidgey, which is going to be a flying type, which is not great for our bug grass little Ace Paris, but I think why not? Let's give it a shot. We're at level 9. I land a very, very critical hit to take the Paris down, and I'm able to get the Pidgey one more time. Pidgey hits us. I hit Pidgey with another scratch. Now here I'm like, you know what? Let's use some potions. I'm gonna have to use potions if I'm gonna make it through this playthrough. Paris is just not a defensive unit, so we're gonna need some help. Here we get the Pidgey to fall asleep, which doesn't really matter, but it is going to save us one more hit. We can hit it with a scratch, and I honestly thought we were going to fall to the Pidgey. If it had Gust, we probably would have, but thankfully it didn't, so we beat it. And I get into this, and I'm just going to go straight ahead and paralyze the Squirtle, hoping we can get some lucky paras in here. So we get into it, and look at that, the very first move, we get it paralyzed, and I attack again, get it down a little bit more, and look at that, 2 full paras in a row. Now, I don't know if I've ever seen 3 full paras in a row on my opponent, and of course here, we don't get that lucky, but I believe we've already got it down far enough that we are easily going to be able to take this down, and with that, we are actually going to take down our rival in both of the beginning rival fights, which I fully expected to lose both of these, so This this run through has already is already doing so much better than I thought it would. We're going to fast forward a little bit, getting into the first gym, and I decide to battle the Camper Liam, the only gym trainer in here, just to get a little trial run for Brock, just to see how we're going to be able to do. And I'm going to try to hit this thing with a stun spore, but miss it. And if I would have been thinking a little bit more, I would have realized that this Geodude's defense is just way, way too high. We are not going to be able to beat this thing by just scratching it alone, and paralyzing it is just prolonging our suffering here. Because look at that. Scratch does absolutely nothing. We would need this thing to be paralyzed like 10 times in a row if we wanted to even have a chance at beating this. So I realized that we are not going to beat it just by stun spore, so I go back into this thinking, okay, maybe my best bet is to get it to hit me and hopefully poison itself. Because if it poisons itself, we're going to be able to do a little bit more chip damage every turn. We'll just have to be able to survive. And here, speeding up through it a little bit. Sorry about the game sound, but we're just going to hit this thing as much as we can. And we actually managed to get it all the way down. And it does poison itself, but too little too late. So I come back in for a third time. Just to see, and I've leveled up my ace a little bit here so that it actually has poison powder now, so that we can remove that 10% chance, and then only 1 out of the 3 being the potential one that we want. So I go ahead, poison Geodude very first turn. Thankfully it hits, and from here we are just going to be able to go ahead and chip it on down, and poison scratch. I have a feeling that this is going to be my cheeky strategy for trying to get through this. I end up having to use a potion, obviously, just to heal up a little bit. But this is definitely a viable option. I think we can do this. So, Sandshrew, we're probably going to have to do the exact same strategy, I think. So, go ahead, poison it. Thankfully, poison hits on the first turn. I really hope that later we can get Toxic. I don't know if Ace can learn Toxic or if I can find a way to get it on him, but Toxic would make things so much easier. That Scratch actually did way more than I was expecting it to, but fast forward a few turns and Sandshrew does end up going down. Now, we're not even over leveled for this first gym battle, and I think, you know what, we can do this. So, I do my ceremonial save before I battle a gym leader. And let's see how we can handle Brock, being actually, I think, right at Brock's level. I think his Onyx is at level 13, and we are at level 13. So, let's have our first attempt here at Brock. Brock obviously leads with Geodude, a little bit stronger than his gym trainer, but same strategy. Oh, his level is 14, not 13, sorry. But yeah, we're not over leveled at all. But poisoned. And he's going to Defense Curl, which Scratch is only there just to chip away an extra HP every turn anyway. I don't even think he needs to use Defense Curl for this thing to only take 1 damage. But long story short, this thing is going to go down. We actually didn't even lose that much HP. I don't even know if I actually ended up using a potion in that first attempt there against his Geodude. But in comes the Onyx, and I say, you know what, Poison Powder is our strategy. He does a tackle, gets a critical hit, which is not great, but then, unfortunately, he triggers the paralyzation from us, which I did not want. And I realize this is now a completely unwinnable battle, but I do get a little bit of good information here. He saw a kill with 18 HP left with the Rock Tom, so I now know that once I get into this battle with him, I want to avoid potentially that Rock Tom, because that Rock Tom is just going to wipe me out every time. Now, we did end up getting over leveled here, but I have a feeling we're probably going to have a level 100 Paris by the end of this, so thankfully we're able to get off the Paralyze here, and I decided to create a save state just so I can just come back here quickly instead of having to redo part of that battle.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
And I only have Master Balls where my potions should have been. It said there that there was 5 Master Balls were a potion to be, so oh my god, I have messed up and glitched out part of my bag, which I hope does not come back to bite me, but we will see as this playthrough goes on. So, I see he now has Bind, which honestly could be good news for us, but not in this next attempt here, because I think my HP is way too low, so even if I do end up using one of my only 2 potions, I went back and battled all the trainers I could, I found all the potions that I could, and there was only 2 that I was able to get. Very unfortunate that I glitched out and lost so many potions there. But now that we are in such range for him to always be clicking this Rock Tomb, we are not going to have enough potions to be able to outlast this thing, especially with that Bind doing a little bit of extra damage every turn. So this ended up taking me, I think, 4 attempts. And honestly, I think we could have done this on the very first attempt when I was at level 14. If we could have just had a little bit of extra luck, we could have done it. But still, only being 2 levels, I think, is great. This is, I think, my last attempt here. I think this is the attempt we do it. We have great HP going into it, so I know that we're not going to trigger the Rock Tomb coming in. It's going to keep doing either Bite or Tackle, so thankfully Poison Powder hits. So now I just have to pray, and I'm like, please, Tackle or Bind, Tackle or Bind. And because I only have 2 potions, I cannot risk this thing getting into the end game with him hitting all of the Rock Tombs. So heal the ace back up. He hits Bind, and I'm like, yes, thank you, we can do this. Now it's just a stall game. We have to see if we can outlast this thing. That little Bind is going to put a little bit of damage extra on it, but as long as he keeps hitting Tackle instead of Rock Tomb, we are definitely going to be able to do this. Get it down under half health. Bind hits us again, takes us down by 2. He decides to go for Bind when we're already binded, and right there, that right there, I think, was the turn that sealed this victory. It is going to go down here in just a minute. We are released from the Bind, but it does not matter. He is still not Rock Tombing, and with this poison, the next turn, we are going to be able to take it down, and with that, guys, I was actually able to beat the first badge. Now, this was kind of like my wading in the water, just seeing if this was even possible, if I could beat Brock without being too over-leveled. And we were able to do it. So I think this is viable. I think we can do this. If you want to follow my journey and see if we can end up taking down this entire Kanto region with just this little Paris, please join me in subscribing to me and follow my journey. I have been Logan S, and I hope that you liked this, but consider giving me a subscription. It would really help out. But thank you so much for watching, and we will continue this in my next video. So take care and have a good day.